Do you guys want to maybe explain your approach to questing and the world at large, and like the normal kind of tradition in MMOs is kind of quest hubs, and you guys are doing something a little bit different. How do you guys approach that?
Basically what we've done is we've tried to eliminate a lot of the kind of hub and spoke model. So we've set up the world into what we're calling objectives or points of interest. And so as the player's kind of wandering through the world, they find these really cool little POIs, these little pockets or individualized stories. The world is what gives the quests to the players rather than any individual NPC.
I think one of the other good things about the way we've set up our quest and the way we've set up our model is, when you look at it, as a player, as you log in and say, okay, I've got 30 minutes. The POIs that Rich was referring to actually allow you to do something that that is tangible for you, and you get a great reward for it in 30 minutes, to 45 minutes or so. From there, that extends out to maybe you want to do several of these, and we break this off into a region or a subsection of a larger zone. Those are kind of internal names for this, but what it really means is that, say within 5 hours, I have this region where I can accomplish something even larger. And then, internally we kind of call those graduation moments, where it's this big kind of act one is finished of the story, and then, you go on to, in say 15 hours, you can complete all 3 acts of this larger story. And so what we do is we, if you think about them almost like chapters in books, you finish a chapter here, you finish a chapter there. Okay, now I'm through this part of the book, and then I get through the series. And so it's this big, long, unfolding story that the player may be just almost completely unaware of, at the first when they're just getting introduced to the story, but later on they start to see how all of these things tie together. I think that's been one of the challenges, for us, is making sure that the player can go anywhere. We don't have a set path for them, but they can go to these little spots and say, oh, I'm learning a little bit more about the story. Oh, I got a little bit more detail about the story. Oh, finally I start to understand the big picture of the story. And oh, wow, this was this large story that I was participating in, where at first it was introduced really slowly to me.
And unlike a book, you don't have to worry about losing your bookmark because the game saves that for you.
Absolutely.
That's incredible. You were talking about quest hubs being a little more organic, no spoken wheel, what'd you call it? Spoken
hub and spoke.
Hub and spoke
Sure,
is
yeah.
the word. But you still might run into like a quest giver, say like a town, who would point you over in that direction?
Absolutely. So one of the things we do is we have what we call multiple bestowers. And any particular quest can have multiple NPCs that can bestow the same quests. We don't expect the player to come in to an area, to a town, to an objective, to a POI from any one particular direction. And so with the multiple bestowers, we can have multiple NPCs and ensure that we have good coverage to that particular area.
And one of the other ways that we vary ourselves from that hub and spoke model, so to speak, is we actually have a compass that we've combined with, what is a radar or a mini map that sits on the screen, where as the player is walking around the world, we say, oh, there's something interesting you might want to do over here. So for instance, if you have a plan, I'm going to go kill, Angoff, the Gravesinger, in one zone, and you say, okay, that's what I'm going to go do tonight. And then all of a sudden you see, oh, there's another thing over here that I can go do. There's a moon to stone in the world, or there's another side quest over here. We point out that opportunity on the compass, so you get that real Elder Scrolls feel of, hey, there's an opportunity over here. Do you really want to go kill Angoff? Do you want to continue along that path, or do you want to branch off and explore something that was totally unknown that you were going to go do that night? And it's it really hammers home that Elder Scrolls feel of, I'm exploring the world, and all of a sudden there's something I didn't expect to have happen. And I see it, and I can go to it.
So just to kind of interrupt there and touch on that as well, one of the things that we try really hard to do is reward the exploration of the world. And so we'll have little events, little quests, we call them vignettes, little things kind of scattered about around the world that if you're wandering around just exploring off the beaten path, you will find these things and you will get rewarded. It might be a quest. It might be just a little 2-room cave that you get down on the bottom and there's a cool treasure chest down there. It might be a boss down there. So we've really tried to go that extra mile to kind of reward the exploration.
Can you, you talked about that mini map, can you turn that off if you decide you don't want compasses pointing you to things? Like, would that encourage more exploration? Sure,
you can. Right now our UI is, we've been concentrating on making sure that you can turn off elements of the UI like that. And if you wanted to just shut that off, you're more than welcome to do so and just go explore as you want.
What do you guys do in terms of making quests stay interesting, instead of falling into that rut where go out and collect 5 like vampire wigs or like 20 Nirnroot or whatever it is. Like, how do you like keep quests interesting throughout the game?
We're always looking for that little nugget of fun in the quest. So one of the things we do, at the very early stage, at a design stage, is what is that extra little bit of gameplay that the quest has. It can be anything from the dreaded kill 10 rats quest. We generally try to hide those with you're not supposed to kill the 10 rats. You're supposed to go from point A to point B, and while you're going along that point, you end up running into the 10 rats kind of thing. Or we'll play with disguises and allow the player to loot disguises off monsters and then use those disguises to step through the quests a little bit easier. And just lots of little things like that. We like to play with speechcraft options as well. So, speechcraft gives the player the ability to kind of short circuit quests, allows them to kind of step through things a little different way or role play through the quest a different way.
Can you explain how quests might affect the world around you in different ways and leave a lasting impact?
So anytime that we present a quest to you that has a choice, for instance, one of the things that we concentrate on with that choice is how is that choice going to be meaningful to you? How is that going to be something that you actually see the tangible results in the world of? So, one of the examples that comes to mind is we have a quest, for instance, where you're in a wooded area and you find out a little bit about this guardian of the area who has existed there for just some amount of time, and so what happens as the player gets to make a choice in that quest. And one of the interesting things about the end of it, without spoiling the entire quest for you, is that
I'm going to play it.
Based off your choice there's a statue that gets erected. You actually get to see what choice you made expressed through that statue. And that's a small thing we do, but it really hits home for, wow, I wonder what would have happened if I would have made the other decision not to do this. And we look for all sorts of ways to express that. It's not just a statue. It can be, one of the quests we talked about was going back in time and changing events that happened in the past, and those events get expressed in the future. For instance, an NPC you were just talking to that was a male is now a female. And sometimes they're little things, and sometimes they're bigger things, like whole towns will react to you differently based off the choice that you've made in the game. So, multiple avenues for expressing what your choice was show up in the game.
Does some of that stuff further down the road affect, maybe like open up new content or affect how you have to approach certain content? Do they have like lasting consequences like really far down the road, or is it kind of just immediate, here's a new statue in this world, or that tree is gone?
You have to be careful. You have to be judicious with how you...
with time, yeah. It's
well,
a dangerous beast.
Specifically, if you're going to have lasting impact and lasting consequences that show up that might open up new content, then you're actually taking content away from players based off their choice, and sometimes that doesn't go quite well. So, we think it's more important to express it in ways that you feel it without necessarily cutting off avenues of content for the player.
Absolutely. There's nothing worse than, making a decision early on in your leveling career, and then when you get to the end, you're like, well, crap, I can't do this quest now, or I can't do this whole section of content because I made this decision that I didn't know was going to have an effect.
Are you guys including larger quest strings or guilds, like some of those like side quests that are very popular in the Elder Scrolls universe? How are you guys approaching that?
Absolutely, we are. So we have, currently we have Mages Guild and Fighters Guild in, and they're kind of what we're calling alternate gameplay. So there's a specific mechanic around each one. So Mages Guild, you're collecting books in the world, earning reputation, and then as you unlock more ranks in the guild, you get various rewards. So, new unique quest lines, item rewards, perks, those types of things. And then Fighters Guild is basically smashing Daedra and closing, breaking up Daedric anchors. And same thing applies to that as well. As you rank up in the guild, you unlock specific quest lines and item rewards and whatnot.
Yeah, it's cool. I know a lot of people like to solo MMOs as much as they can. It sounds like you guys are willing to let people do that. Are you guys doing anything to encourage players to work together or quest together?
Absolutely. So to encourage players to work together on the quest, I think one of the big mechanics we have is, the fact that it's not only can you go in and get credit along with with the other members of your group, but we actually have combat mechanics that help them. It's just more fun when an ability that I use that you can capitalize on gets used over the course of the quest. So it's we have the things like shared objectives that you complete during the quest. So for instance, if everybody is supposed to kill one NPC in the world, then my group gets credit for killing that NPC, right? So that's a shared thing. But it's actually just more fun to go do that together based off the other mechanisms we have. You're not ending up fighting over loot the way you normally would. Even in the quest right now, we reward you based off the class you are versus giving you choices that may make you think, okay, well, I should get this versus the other person should get this.
And yeah, to touch on a little bit more what Paul just said, one of the core systems to our quest system is the way we share things. So you can not be grouped, and you guys can both be on a quest killing bears out in the forest. Just random, random quest.
Why do those bears need to be killed?
For whatever means, sure. Like we can explain that any way we want, but the basic premise is, person A is out in the world, person B comes up out there with him. They're not grouped. They can still work together and get shared credit for killing these monsters working together. So we take that semi-hostile encounter that you get in other games, and in our game, they're already kind of working together, and it's a more friendly interaction. So that kind of introduces more of a social dynamic to the players.
Friendly bear killing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Can you guys give us an example of maybe a major point of interest quest that you might do?
Sure. So if you're looking at a point of interest quest like Camlorn, where there is at the end that there is an undead werewolf who's helped take over Camlorn. So all of the werewolves in Camlorn are basically the product of this one undead werewolf. So when you start out this objective, okay, I've got to go kill this werewolf named Falchu.
Cut off the head.
Yeah, exactly. You want to get in there because you think that will end the curse and that will actually free this town and this whole city that has been ransacked by them. So as a player, as you go in, you find out that while you still have this objective, and that's why we tend to call them objectives, because it's a very simple thing that that you have to go do, there's all sorts of things you have to do along the way. You end up freeing people who were held there because they're prisoners of war, so to speak, for nefarious purposes, whatever werewolves would hold people like that for.
Well, really?
Absolutely.
Like in real life?
Sure.
Historical fact.
Werewolves keep prisoners.
Okay.
That's right. We have things like simple recover our belongings. There were refugees that said, hey, we need you to go back and get these family heirlooms. Those type of things actually occur while you're going through this. So there's all sorts of distraction and other things to do along the way. And of course you're killing werewolves, and eventually you're going to get to kill Falchu. So, and at the end of this, when you do kill Falchu, you come back and the entire town has, people burning werewolf bodies, and you've got these, the whole town has been changed based off your actions, and you come out and you see, hey, I really was the hero here. And then when you go back to other areas in the game, people say, oh, I recognize you, I've heard about you, you killed Falchu. And, yes, we understand that lots of people kill Falchu, but to you as a player, that feels great because you did actually do that. And so it reinforces, I did something great, I changed the world.
Can you guys explain sort of maybe a sneak peek trailer, if you will, of the main storyline? Like when players jump into this world, why are they there? What are they doing?
Right from kind of moment one in the game, from the tutorial on, we're introducing the player to the main story. We're introducing them to who they are as a player, kind of who they are, what they're about, and why they're special. And so without spoiling it too much, the basic premise is Manamarco and Molag Bal are working together to basically merge Cold Harbor, which is Molag Bal's Daedric Plain of Oblivion, with Tamriel. Molag Bal wants to basically destroy all of Tamriel by doing this plane merge. And Manamarco, what he gets out of it is he gets to be the ruler of what's left. So they've worked together, they've stolen the player's soul, and ultimately the player wants their soul back. And as the player is leveling through their career, they're working together with other NPCs that are recurring that kind of help them along the path and point them to new moments, new chapters unlock. And that together, those all tell the story of the main story and the player's progression through the world.
So players spend the whole game playing through without a soul?
They do.
How does that have any kind of effects on your body, or even just like
it does? So it
state?
ties in very nicely to our death system. That it's kind of a nod to why does when I die, why don't I always just die? Like how that works in Elder Scrolls.
You need a soul to die.
Basically.
Okay, interesting. I can't think of a funny joke, but we can insert that later, right? Soulless.
I think just to add on to that, we touched a little bit on the 30 minutes, 5 hours and 15 hours. But the great thing about the main quest that it really does, and I think all of these quest lines is, it's pretty unusual to play a massively multiplayer game that has quest lines like this, and that's one of the challenges that we've worked on, is getting these quest lines available to the player. So it's not just something that I play and it's okay, well, it's a 30-minute quest, it's a 40-minute quest. It's actually a line that goes through that feels very Elder Scrolls, the Fighters Guild, Mages Guild, the main quest here. All of these things are it is doled out to the player over time, but it's something that they're looking forward to. Okay, what's the next part of that that we're going to hit? And I think that ties in really well to what the player wants to do.
Our philosophy for a lot of those things is these are big rewards for the player, right? Like these are really cool kind of epic moments that, it's not just a, oh, hey, by the way, it's a holy crap, that was cool, I want to do more.
Well, thanks guys for coming on this quest with me to just learn more about questing. We've all leveled up in interviews.
Awesome.
So
Excellent.
Thanks a lot for your time.
Absolutely.
All right. Do I have to talk to you to get a reward?
We have to go kill a bear now. That's what we have to go do.
Awesome.